Hi everyone, welcome to today's session. My name's Claire. I'm Head of Platform and Community here at Birchal, and we'd like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land of which we are beaming in from today. Birchal is based on the lands of the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation, and we'd like to pay our respects to their elders past, present and emerging. These webinars are so much fun to run because we get to learn so much more about the founders behind the incredible businesses that we support. And today I'm incredibly excited to be joined by Andrew from the Otway Brewing Group. Now, how today's session is going to run is that Andrew is going to run us through a really awesome presentation for about 15 to 20 minutes, all about Otway, where they've come from, what they're looking to do today for the capital raise. We're going to then switch to a Q&A session afterwards as well. So if you look on your Zoom screen down the bottom, you'll see this little Q&A bubble down there. If you have a question, please pop it in. And then as other attendees, you can see questions you really like and you can upvote them to get them answered first. We are recording today's session, so if you do have to drop out early, a recording will be sent around. But otherwise, we'd love to know where everyone's tuning in from. So you can use the chat bot to say hello if you'd like to, reach out and say g'day. But without further ado, I'm going to pass it over to Andrew to say hello and tell us what we're here to hear about today.
Great, thanks Claire, appreciate and welcome everyone to the presentation today. So hopefully we're going to share some great information with you and keep you more encouraged about joining the journey of Otway Brewing Group. So what I want to do today is actually, as part of the presentation, is just obviously give you as much of the history as I can about what we've achieved over a number of years, looking at our results and milestones, a quick snapshot of our financials, obviously talk about our vision, the purpose of the crowdfunding, where we want to take these funds, how we want to invest them into the growth of the business, and obviously give you a quick overview of where we see investor reward sitting moving forward. So that's the snapshot of what we're going to run through. Obviously, I'm expecting most people have a reasonable background on who we are and what we do. Most people may not know we actually started in 1997 as Otway Estate, as a small winery, which is our traditional home base at 10 Hovies Road, Birchal, simply about 12k south of Colac in the beautiful Otway Ranges. Great location. We grew grapes for a number of years. We still make small amounts of wine. It's just really a little side product at the moment. By about 2000, we put our first wine out in 2000. By 2003, we actually realised that it was going to be challenging selling wine from a non-wine growing region, but we had a beautiful aesthetic area and we were getting inquiries for people using our property set up as a beautiful vineyard. So we spent 2004 sort of planning about building our facility there. We had the Melbourne Business School do a business plan for us, have a look at the whole site, and we knew solely as a winery it was going to be a challenging journey. So we decided that we would enter the craft beer market to diversify the products that we had at Otway Estate. We built our facility, which is there today. We opened that December 2006 and launched our first beer in April 2007. So that's the journey of Prickly Moses. For those of you who don't know, Prickly Moses is an Indigenous plant, and the name come to us when we built our facility and we had to clear some vegetation and council required us to revegetate part of the property. This particular plant called Prickly Moses actually was on the list of plants we had to do. We thought it was such a great name, local to our area, that's where the name come from. And our little echidna, which is our little logo, little echidnas walk all over our property. And the adjoining location to Birchal is Kawaran, and in the Indigenous dialect, that's place of the echidna. So it's a fantastic, fantastic location. So off we went, started making beers and started distributing beers, and we launched our cider in 2010. In 2011, 2012, we invested a lot of time and effort into running our facility, running a restaurant, running functions, running art shows, running markets, running everything we could on site. But we were probably missing the missing the wholesale market. So the beer industry was growing rapidly. So we decided we had to look at some different ways of actually getting out to market, seeing people, consider our own venues. We were actively in the farmers market scene, actively in the event scene. We were running a caravan, we were running a portable bar. In 2003, we launched our mobile brewery bus to step up the events we were doing, which most people have seen. It's been a fantastic success story for us until COVID hit and wiped out most events for the last couple of years. So that's just starting to be reactivated. My co-founder Tony and I are both born and bred at Apollo Bay, so the opportunity was to jump into a venue which we launched what was the Great Ocean Hotel as the Great Ocean Road Brew House in 2015, which was has been extremely successful for us and a cornerstone of actually promoting and selling our beers in our regional tasting room and so forth. We then decided that was going well, that we would grab another hotel, and the former Esplanade Hotel in Queenscliff was vacant, had been closed, and we looked at it as a vacant premise and believed we could jump in there with no business in place, buy the freehold, and we launched the Queenscliff Brewhouse in 2016. So that is one of our freehold investments we have in our portfolio, together with our property at Birchal. We opened regional tasting rooms in Apollo Bay and Queenscliff 2015, 2017. With all of the event work that we do off-site, we rapidly started to see the introduction of spirits, particularly gin, into the event market and the beverage market. And as I was trudging around regional Victoria trying to sell beer, a couple of distilleries started popping up and started selling a lot more gin than beer. So we thought, wow, this is a rapidly changing market. So we actually needed to get into the spirits market to make sure we kept our market share in those regional areas. So we launched the Queenscliff Distillery in 2019. At the same stage that happened in Apollo Bay, a former post office, which had been a fruit shop for 10 years, became vacant directly opposite our hotel. We thought, wow, someone else is going to do a distillery here. So we jumped into that facility and launched the Apollo Bay Distillery in 2020. Unfortunately, we launched it 2 weeks before COVID shut us down in March. That was been an interesting journey there, but that site's going along extremely well with the challenges of staff and what we have to do there at the moment. So both our Apollo Bay sites are leasehold, and our Queenscliff and Birchal site are both freehold, where we own the land assets in those locations. Milestones. If you follow the awards market and what's happening there at the moment, you will have picked up that the Australian Distilled Spirits Awards last night. Queenscliff received gold for its botanical gin and silver for its citrus gin, which was a fantastic result. So that's gold. There was 12 gold medals out of 300 entries. So a fantastic result for us in Queenscliff and the products we're making. Apollo Bay also picked up a bronze for its ocean gin. So we regularly go into the awards because it benchmarks us against other products. So we like to do that. Just last week in the Beer Indie Awards, we picked up gold for our pale ale, which was fantastic again. A very crowded category, so picking up gold was fantastic. So we've consistently picked up awards, which is a benchmarking that our products are quality and commercial getting into the market. Our actual venues have also picked up a number of awards. We've won 5 Golden Plate Awards. We've won a significant number of AHA, Australian Hotel Industry Awards for Best Retail Innovation, which is what we're very proud to do, to actually get out there and actually sell our product and so forth. We've got about 80,000 followers across the digital platforms of our hotels, through our beer clubs and our different beer sites we operate. Revenue for the last 12 months has been approximately 12 million. With a net profit of 8.9%. So we're happy with that. We obviously believe that can be, there's a lot of growth in that, a lot of growth in revenue, a lot of growth in profit opportunities. but we are coming off a couple of years of COVID impact. So those results actually reflect COVID trading, which has been challenging for the venues where they've been closed down for regular periods of time. The Otway Brewing Group, as I've explained, there are four sites we operate. So our home base is what we call Otway Estate. Hopefully those that wish to come on this journey will actually visit Otway Estate, beautiful property in the Otway Ranges. We've got a cellar door there, which we've had leased out for the last couple of years, and we felt that the partnership with our tenant there wasn't as strong as it could be. So we've mutually negotiated with our tenant there, and we actually take over our cellar door as of Monday, the 31st of October, which is very, very exciting in terms of revenue opportunities and what we're going to offer there as a customer experience. That's the home of Prickly Moses. That's where the beer is predominantly made. There are small brew houses at the hotels, but that's where we make the beer, the cider, the wine, and a significant amount of this investment is going to the expansion at Otway into a production facility for distilled spirits and a maturation room for whiskey inventory that we're building up. There's the brew house in Apollo Bay, fantastic old hotel. It's one of the oldest buildings left in Apollo Bay, 2-story facility. We obviously run bar, bistro there, our tasting room and cellar door, and there is an accommodation opportunity there. We've just installed a microbrewery at that hotel, which has not yet been commissioned. Just a small 300-litre brew house to be producing some on-site beers and just giving the customers a better experience there. Directly opposite the hotel in Apollo Bay, on the Great Ocean Road, is the Apollo Bay Distillery. It's a fantastic site. We've had it open since March 2020, and then we've just gone through ups and downs with COVID, but that site ticks along extremely well. We've got Apollo Bay gins operating out of there, and we've introduced our Nitro Vodka series. We have got some whiskey down in barrel, but not ready for release. Then we have our Queenscliff Brewhouse, so a fantastic 150-year-old building sitting on the Esplanade in Queenscliff. It's the last hotel left operating in Queenscliff. So it's a fantastic institution, public bar. We have our regional tasting room. There is opportunities to further renovate the building. There's an accommodation wing which is not yet registered. There's a significant first floor space with our whiskey bar. That whiskey bar pre-COVID won best specialty bar in Victoria, but COVID's come along and we haven't fully reactivated that space in the building at this point in time. We're currently refurbishing at Queenscliff, expanding all of the bar downstairs, introducing real ale as part of the service offering into Queenscliff. Fantastic site. It's a freehold site. There's lots of opportunity occurring in Queenscliff where we're growing that business at the moment. Obviously, revenues, as we've explained, our revenues have continued to grow nice and consistently. We're very much focused on our retail sites while we're still expanding our sort of wholesale market and looking at a number of new opportunities there. There's obviously a dip in revenue, which is very much related to COVID, shutdowns and so forth. But coming out of COVID, even with interruption to business, we've still grown revenue. It's been a great journey, and we've got great support, and we're ticking along reasonably well. And our group revenue sits at 12 million there at the moment. So it gives you, there'll be a lot more information provided in the investment details, the actual offer when it comes out in regards to that. Obviously, the profit. Our profit a couple of years ago was actually a loss on the business, but then we've bounced right back into profitable trading at this point in time. Part of our loss was part of our refurbishment works we were doing at Apollo Bay with that going through the accounts. But we've bounced right back and seeing about 8.7 net profit at the moment, which is still coming off COVID. Again, not an excuse, but the reality. It's all sitting in a very, very strong position for growth opportunities with normalised trading and growth. What are we going to do with these funds if we're successful with our crowdfunding? Clearly, we're on the journey now. We could look at further traditional source of funding. At the moment, we are funded through Judo Bank. They've been absolutely fantastic to work with in supporting our business and where we are. The first thing is we're looking to do, all the plans are in place. Everything's approved. We've got all of the infrastructure planned. We're looking to do a major expansion at our site at Otway for whisky production. At the moment, we have 2 operating stills within the group, and we're looking to place 2 more stills in to centralise a lot of production and create a lot of efficiencies at Otway. There'll be a dedicated whisky wash still and a dedicated spirit still operating at Otway. And then Otway has significant advantages for whisky maturation. It's a beautiful, cool location for natural whisky maturation. So there's a large part of our facilities being allocated to a barrel room to increase our whisky storage ability. Whisky stored there at the moment, but we're looking to significantly expand that. Part of the investment will also be actually into the direct manufacturing of whisky. We also need to buy grain, there's energy costs, there's barrels. Barrels become a major part of what the outcome for whisky is. 60% of the quality of whisky is all based on the aging process, not just the grain selection. So we've been doing a lot of work on barrel selection in the last few years, and we're about to launch into large-scale whisky production with part of these funds. We're also going to look to take complete control of our freehold. We have some other investment interests sitting in our Queenscliff brew house, and we want to further expand and undertake works on that freehold site. So part of the funds will be used to actually secure our controlling ownership in the Queenscliff brew house. So great opportunity with that site down there for those who've visited Queenscliff. That's just a little plan of Otway. To give you a little bit of an overview of where we're expanding that facility. We're expanding it on the south side of the existing infrastructure and car park. We have a fully constructed car park there for 93 vehicles. The brewery operates there. There's a cellar door cafe, small vineyard. Part of that vineyard we're actually removing at the moment to actually grow some hops there. And we're going to have quite a significant native botanical garden growing there for our gin production because we actually have land. There's further land to expand down there for further barrel warehousing on that site, just off Hovies Roads, where there's some vines there which we probably won't use, and we'll move that into barrel selection, barrel storage moving forward. So that is all underway. That will happen. We're hoping to have this up and running within months. So all the works are put in place and moving forward there. The new facility will have solar panels on it. We've already got 45 kilowatts of solar operating on the existing facility, and we've spoken to council about 2 15 kilowatt wind generators going on that site. Otway has a complete ability to operate completely off the grid from power, except there's a 350,000 investment required in battery storage, which we're not moving forward at this point in time unless we can get some government support on that. We collect all our own rainwater. There's no town service at Otway, so we're just installing another 250,000 litres of water storage on that site at the moment. All our waste is all processed and managed on site. So it's a fully sustainable site, and we can go completely off grid with a large investment in the battery, but we believe battery technology will come down shortly. So we'll look to see how we progress that. Investor rewards, obviously, like anyone who wishes to invest, I'm a shareholder in this. So obviously what we want to do is make sure we have a direct investment return on shares. That's the key thing to us, is to ensure the business trades profitably and returns an investment direct on return. There are other benefits we're putting in place, and that's all to do with the level of investment and therefore providing discounts off the purchase of product across the group, which hopefully means that investors will both support the product by investing and support the product by buying into the group. So $250 investment, there's a 5% discount on all retail, up to $2,500. Above that, 7.5% discount. Above $5,000, it's a 10% discount on all retail purchases. And if anyone invests above 10,000, there's a 12.5% discount off all retail purchases at all of our 4 retail sites. So great opportunity to buy the product, but the key reward for us here is dividend returned on the actual investment of what we're doing. So there's some key things what we're working on. So guys, I'll pass back to Claire and let's jump into some questions and answers and try and get into some more detailed information that I can help with.
Thank you so much, Andrew, for a great presentation. If anyone's got a question, please pop it in the Q&A box. I've already got 3 questions already coming through. The first question that's come through is from Andrew. If you have effectively $1 million in net profit for 2 years running, could you expand about raising capital?
Could I expand about? Yeah, well, again, there's a significant investment goes into the business here. The profit we've been using has been used to continue to fund other works in the business. We've just put in more brewery equipment. We've put in more infrastructure. If people go to Queenscliff, you can see where we're reinvesting a lot of our current profits already into our business at the moment. So there's a lot of things which are actually occurring now at our sites, which are requiring our profits, which we've been reinvesting at the moment.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
A great question is coming from Melinda. Terrific environmental sustainable program that you have. Do you have any assistance from government or council?
I'm going to make this answer really quick. No, unfortunately, not a thing. Not a thing. That's very, it's very interesting. Do
you think that there are plans to try and secure that support, or have you already tried and been battered back? What sort of, or is that just not part of what you need to do to get a more sustainable program at the venue?
No, listen, the main thing, we've started some discussions with government. Again, as I've just explained, Otway is a unique opportunity to go completely off grid, but there's a large investment in the battery is required. Our concern with investing in that battery at this point in time is that I may take on a capital expenditure, I may take on debt of $350,000 to put that battery in, and in 2 years' time, I'm competing with a business which can get the same battery for $100,000.
Yeah.
The technology on batteries is changing that quickly. The governments really should get behind businesses like us, which are creating employment. We're in a regional area. We're reducing our greenhouse footprint by doing these things. They should hopefully look at us as a case study to come in and actually give us some support for that. We're paying for all of the solar panels. We're paying for all of the wind generators. We're paying for all of the water tanks. We're paying for all of the processing plants. And we haven't had $1 towards anything sustainable on our site. We have to do it because where we are. So it's been unfortunate. Yeah.
Well, hopefully, again, being a great case study as a company, it may, create some sort of action from the government or local councils to try and support more businesses like you that are trying to grow. And yeah.
Look, one of the problems, if I could just, was it Melinda that asked the question? Just one of the challenges we have, we've approached some, government agencies where opportunities for funding exist, but we're trying to move our business forward on a day-to-day basis. And what happens, these government programs come along and you're not eligible for many of these government programs if you actually have started any of the work. Then what you get in this situation, that their lead time on their applications and their lead time on when you can support the work, you're actually deferring business opportunities for 12 to 18 months.
Yeah, wow.
They make the programs difficult. So we've tried to get some government support, but again, if I go and put solar up now to help myself, well, then I'm ineligible for some of the programs because I haven't waited for the government support.
Wow. And then, as you say, it takes like 12 to 18 months to do it, in which time, as we know through COVID, a lot changes.
So it's a challenging opportunity. What goes on there?
Mm. Another question has come through about the numbers around the raise. So a question has come through about how much you're looking to raise, what your estimated valuation of the company is, and what percentage of the overall company will this equate to. Before you hop in and answer, I might just sort of run people through again the process that we're in at the moment with the campaign. So we are in the moment at the expression of interest stage of the campaign, where we're getting market feedback with the Otway group to understand, you know, what sort of interest out there in the market, which we can't reveal now in terms of the raise parameters. But of course, Andrew, the team's got, you know, a minimum amount of money they need to raise to execute some meaningful plans that you would have had in mind. And I'm sure you've got a rough valuation range, you know, in the back of your mind that you're thinking about, and a sort of percentage of the company. So in answering that, I'm just going to encourage everyone listening in that these are not final figures, because we're still sort of working out the final parameters of the deal, but more of a guideline of what the company's sort of after and thinking about in this capital raise.
Yeah, so we're certainly looking in the range of $2 million plus in terms of where we'd like to raise money, and depending on how successful we are in this sort of process, everything that we've proposed as part of our raise, we will continue to do, you know, with financial support from the banks if we need to. That's definitely one option of how we can raise the money. Where does the again, we think we have a unique offering in terms of a crowdfunding opportunity, because we have 2 freehold sites, and there's 4 businesses operating across those sites, 2 leasehold, 2 freehold. There's 4 businesses. The revenues and the projections that we've got, we've worked a lot with Judo Bank in terms of where it all sort of sits in the market from where we have some debt facilities with those. We would think that the whole group, you know, with the extra money put in place, with the extra facilities in place, would be in the vicinity of $20 million, where it sits in terms of its assets and its cash flows. And therefore that will put the put a capital raise sort of probably offering to investors somewhere in the vicinity of about 12.5% of the company.
Terrific. And for everyone listening in, the full terms of the offer in terms of the pre-money valuation, share price, all the investors who are currently in the business, the last 12 months of financial statements will all be included in the offer document when it is released during the offer campaign, which will kick off in, you know, less than 2 weeks, which is very exciting. There is a question that's come through next, which I think does relate to a little bit about what you just discussed. So I'm just going to hop to that question and then circle back. One of the questions that's come through is just talking about why this funding mechanism. So why have you chosen to go down the equity crowdfunding route other than other mechanisms such as bank loans, angel groups, and other sort of investment channels?
That's to us, it's really simple. Hopefully some of the investors have seen me before trudging around regional Victoria doing events and festivals, and I regularly get asked by people, is there an opportunity to invest in the business? So again, I just had people approach me in August this year when I was doing sheep venture in Hamilton. So we've sort of watched the crowdfunding space, and we thought, well, we want to raise some money. We can go to the bank. We've spoken to the bank. But we thought, well, why don't we follow down this path of actually taking it to the people who support us and seeing who wants to join the journey. And that's why we've done it. Rather than going to 3 or 4 individuals that approach us, we thought, let's put it out through this platform and offer it to all the people who support us. So that's the reason we've chosen this path.
Awesome. And
as I can explain, people can actually visit each of these sites now. Everything's operational. It's where we're expanding things. And all of those expansion plans are actually occurring now. And we will make them happen through bank debt or other facilities if we need to, subject to how this opportunity goes for investors to join us.
And I think that's then a really good segue into a question that's come through about dividend returns and the sort of investment that this is. So for some people who are, on today's webinar, this may be your first investment through an equity crowdfunding platform. And for other people on the webinar, you may be turning into a portfolio investor and investing in quite a few deals over time. But just to highlight before we get to the next question about the sort of asset class that this is. So when you buy shares through a platform like Birchal in a company like Otway Brewing Group, you're buying fully owned ordinary shares in a private or a public unlisted Australian company, in this case, a private Australian company. So the shares that come through deals like this are considered to be, illiquid, basically. So unlike, the ASX or a stock market where you buy a bunch of shares and decide the next day the stock prices drop down, I want to sell, I want to cash out and get my money back quite quickly. Through private investments, it's a less volatile market, and we really do recommend that every investor reads our crowdsourced funding general risk warning and the terms of the offer, and to really consider this investment a medium to long-term investment, because you may find that it may be hard to divest of your shares if you decide that this is no longer for you, or that you need the money at short notice. And I think that is really the philosophy of people who invest in these deals. Obviously, everyone wants to get a return, as Andrew's already mentioned. That's why we're investing in these companies. But investors that get a lot of benefit out of these companies are in it for the long run. And hopefully, when we get to, exit events, the company value is of a greater value than the time that you bought in, and that's how you make your money back. There's a little bit more information on our website about this, and of course, check out Money Smart, and to speak to your financial advisor or accountant if you want to see if this investment is right for you. But I just wanted to lay that as the groundwork and a bit of context around this asset class before I ask the next question from Nicholas, which is talking about dividends returns and whether there is a singular goal for investor returns moving forward, or if there is a view to a long-term exit, such as an acquisition. The final thing I'll say on that is that these are, typically early stage, higher risk ventures than things that you'll see, that are a little bit later down in their journey. So when you invest in these companies limited by your shares, you may lose all your investment and may have difficulties recovering your money, or, there's great growth and it all goes really, really well. So of course, Andrew, you can't look into a crystal ball and say, yes, we're going to have dividends in 2 years' time. Yes, we're going to exit and get it acquired by a really large company. Obviously, we can't put timeframes on it or any guarantees that these events will happen. But I imagine as the company, as you grow, you have a view and a vision for where you'd eventually like to see the company arriving at in terms of those exit events for investors and how people can make their money back. So back to Nicholas's question, can you give me a little bit more information on sort of what you hope for the country and what you hope for the country, what you hope for the company, and what you sort of see in the future?
In the next couple of years, to us, it's about consolidating our growth. Take Clean Split in the first instance. We're refurbishing there. There's significant more income growth left in that site. So obviously we're wanting to grow income to provide returns to investors. The Apollo Bay distillery site, there is significant income growth left in that site. We haven't had a COVID normalised year, so there's significant growth when we can open there. Again, growing revenue, grow profit, therefore dividends to investors. At our Otway site, there's significant growth there, cellar door opportunity, whisky inventory, there's exponential growth in whisky, building a plan to take that to the international market. And then there's our hotel in Apollo Bay, again, great site, older building, there's still growth opportunity there. It's probably got less growth in it than we see at the other three sites. From a revenue point of view, it's a reasonably mature business. We keep tweaking and improving things. We've just appointed an events officer to start running more events there and street festivals, so there's growth opportunity there. The next couple of years is clearly about income growth and investment return. Will that lead to exit opportunities on different parts of the business? Yeah, quite possibly. Because we've got two hotels, you can clearly see aggregation of hotels by different groups in the Australian market. Have we ever been approached? No, but could we be approached? Yeah, absolutely. If we create a significant wet whisky portfolio and we start to get recognition for what we're doing there, again, there's significant demand for Australian whisky, so someone may want to come and further invest or buy us out in there. But that's not what we're doing in the next 2 years. It doesn't mean someone won't come along and give us that opportunity. The beer industry, if we do 500,000 litres of beer next year, which is heavily consumed through our own venues, and there's a great margin on that. I think the beer market is now predominantly saturated by acquisitions. I don't think any of the beer entries or beer companies out there at the moment trying to grow. I don't think the big groups of CUB and Blind Nathan or Asahi, I don't think they're going to be looking at many more acquisitions in the market because their portfolios are so big now. So if people think that's I don't believe that's an exit strategy. But if we get the whole spirits program right and we get into the international market with our whiskies, who knows where that will go. So it's very much about income growth. It's very much about an investor return on income growth at the moment.
Awesome. Which actually leads quite well into the next question about your Queenscliff silo. The question has come through about, the size of that silo, and will you only be distilling your own products, or in the future, would you be open up to distilling other brands and using that as another source of revenue?
No, actually, so that's at Otway, what we're doing there. No, we've already got discussions with other businesses for contract distilling. So that's a key part of an income growth opportunity for us.
Terrific.
So there's a large hospitality group we're discussing with at the moment, which will hopefully contract to us to make their spirit portfolio as well. So absolutely, that's something we're putting the infrastructure in for at Otway. So we have the capability to do that. That's absolutely something we'll be chasing.
And in terms of the timing for the retail of whiskey, you said you had some barrels in storage. So how long do you think it would take before you can start selling Otway whiskey?
We've got legal whiskey at the moment. So people who follow it, once you put the new make spirit down in barrels, you've got a two-year storage period in Australia until it's legally called whiskey. I'm not too sure many people are releasing spirit as whiskey after 2 years. Most of them are giving it 3 years. So we've legally got whiskey at the moment. We partnered to start our learning of whiskey with Tim Boone Distillery. So all of our first whiskies we put down, we were working with Tim Boone, and they hadn't expanded much into the peated whiskies. So we experimented with Tim Boone, and we put down a whole lot of peated whiskey. So I've got all that sitting in the barrel, and hopefully these investors will come to Otway and can sample all of that. But I'm actually not going to release that yet because I don't want to be known for just being a peated whiskey house. So we're probably 18 months away from non-peated whiskey that we put down. So I think we're about 18 months away from being able to release a range of whiskies at this point in time. That's where we are, and we don't have huge volumes at this point in time. But aspirationally, we're looking to put tens of thousands of litres of whiskey down this year if we can.
Yeah, awesome. Terrific. And a question came through actually about the rewards. Would the discounts on your rewards apply to your bistro services as well?
No, it's only going to be on all the product we produce.
Okay, beautiful. Thank you. The next question that's come through is a really interesting question, and I think this will help in terms of discuss a little bit more about what investors will see in the offer document and how under the crowdsource funding regulations we're allowed to talk about these investment opportunities to a retail audience. And a retail audience basically means anyone in Australia over the age of 18. The question has come through from Chris. With this planned investment and expansion, where are you projecting product and revenue growth over the next 5 years? Will this be covered in the investment pack that you send out? Now, as a bit of context to how we have to run these offers as a licensed intermediary, ASIC takes a very firm view about projection of product and projection of financial forecasts and projection about return on investments. And this includes, yield of investments and things like that. As I mentioned before, because a lot of these ventures are, earlier stage and they are in private companies and they don't have, massive trading histories often. The rules that we have to do as a licensed intermediaries, it'd be irresponsible. It's also misleading of us to release any information in these offers that could be considered, misleading or basically speculative. And that includes projected financial growth and projected revenue and things like that in the company. So what investors do receive when they receive the investment offer document that comes through, as I mentioned before, is the last 12 months of financial statements for the company to see what the financial position of the company is in. The company's revenue, accomplishments, customer base, all this kind of thing to date. And then pretty much a bit of a detailed plan, or depending on how detailed the company wants to make it, about what they want to do with the funding next, which Andrew's gone through a little bit in today's session. The other part of the offer document, which is really critical, is a risks section. So, companies often obviously raising capital to execute on some expansion plans, and we all hope it's going to go really, really well. But it's important, of course, for investors to consider the risks that may derail those plans and weigh that up when you make your investment decision. So in terms of answering this question from Chris, we can't really, include many or any really financial projections at the risk of being misleading or speculative in this presentation or in the offer document. But, for Andrew, I'm interested with the expansion of your venues and of your brewing capability. What are you sort of brewing now, and what is your production capability now, and what do you sort of see it being in the future from a purely, manufacturing or brewing point of view? Like how much product would you be able to get out if all your plans sort of paid off well?
Look, I think next year, from a brewing point of view, we've actually just put in. We've just actually, when someone actually asked an earlier question about, well, where are the profits going? So we've just put in more tanks already at Otway to expand brewing capacity, which will both be for beer and whiskey wash. It's all the same process of what we put down. So at the moment, we've probably been running at about 6,000 or 7,000 litres a week of production at Otway. But in the next 6 months, that production will probably go to 20,000 litres a week of whiskey wash production and beer production. So we expect this significant step up in production in the next 12 months.
Yeah, terrific. Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. So if no one has any other questions, I might ask one more question of my own, and then we can wrap up today's session. And if you would like to ask Andrew or any of the Otway Brewing team more questions or have a phone call, we will be sending out after today a recording of the webinar and also contact details if you'd like to dive in a little bit deeper. And of course, the offer document and all the information we've mentioned will be available in a couple of weeks' time. So keep an eye on your emails for the drop of that offer document, pun intended, being a whiskey company. To see all the details of the investment when it's available. Actually, a question has come through. Will the financials show each of the sites' revenue and profitability to date?
Yes.
Yes, great. Nice, easy answer. And the question I have for you is, what do you perceive your challenges in the future to be? What are some of the key risks that may derail, your plans to execute?
A pandemic.
A pandemic, yes.
That could always come back and bite us somewhere. Apart from that, look, we've tried to sort of, by controlling our own venues, we're trying to control our own destiny, our own sales channels. So we're not just relying on a completely competitive wholesale market. We're looking to expand those retail sites, Queenscliff and Otway particularly, and other growth opportunities. So it is actually a very competitive market out there. If you follow it, there's gin distilleries popping up everywhere in the spirits market. But if you follow it closely, not a lot of those businesses from a spirits perspective can actually do whiskey. One, they don't have the equipment to do the wash, and secondly, they don't have a location to store barrels of whiskey. So we have a very unique asset that we actually have all of that equipment. We have barrels from our winemaking. We have a lot of knowledge on timber. We have space to expand what we can actually do. So we've got a great opportunity to grow that. And we've been approached by others to do contract work because we have that infrastructure in place. So there's a great opportunity of what we can actually do there.
Yeah, terrific. Well, that has been a really, actually, hang on, one more question has come through. From Linda, is the funding only for whiskey? We've covered a little bit of, the funding uses in the presentation. A couple more questions actually come through, so ignore that. We'll go through the questions before we wrap up. If the funding already for whiskey, Andrew, I might just get you to recap what the funding's for, just to make it very clear to everyone that's in the audience.
No, it's not only for whiskey, but we are highlighting that there will be a large allocation of the funding put towards the infrastructure for expanded whiskey production. So new buildings at Otway, new equipment, so new production facility is part of the cash flow to put barrels of whiskey down. So it is a key part of the funding of where we're going, because we see significant growth in the Australian whiskey market and significant opportunities then to export that overseas. So those opportunities are that we need to get the whiskey down. So we're giving it 3 to 5 years maturation and then take that to market. But every year that whiskey grows in value on the balance sheet, which underpins the investment into that. It's actually not a stagnant investment. It's actually a growing investment in terms of how that sits on the balance sheet and how that product actually can be sold as a whiskey spirit during its life. So no, it's not only about whiskey. The infrastructure we put in helps the whole business efficiency of what we can do. By doing more whiskey, we're looking to put in a grain silo by actually buying grain in bulk. It reduces the cost of grain by buying it in bulk from about $1.25 a kilo down to 70 cents a kilo. That then flows back into the more competitive pricing on the beer product.
Yeah,
so therefore, hopefully we're having we can expand our beer market and so forth. So there's a whole range of things happening across our beer and sort of our spirit program.
Yeah, awesome. And how mature is the distribution channel into the major Australian markets? Is a question coming from Nicholas.
We basically only have distribution in the Victorian market, and even that is relatively restrictive with the major retailers. We have beers distributed through Melbourne with the major retailers. We don't have a lot of product with, say, a brand like Dan's. Dan's give us great support in southwest Victoria, both in beer and gin distribution. But once it gets into other regional areas of Victoria, no. So there are lots of opportunities for expanding wholesale distribution, but we watch that market very closely because the margins are very, very competitive and very, very low. So it's not a market that, with the beer particularly, we look to chase because it's just too competitive.
A question's actually come through about New South Wales and on that front end distribution. As an events promoter in New South Wales, would there be opportunities to bring beer to those events?
Absolutely. Yeah, no, absolutely. We'd love to. For those who know the business, we've had some discussions on taking our bus on a tour around Australia to launch some of our products and promote it. And we have had beer in the New South Wales market that we've actually, probably about 4 years ago, we started sort of retracting back out of that market because the transportation costs were just killing it. But for events and promotion, absolutely getting into the New South Wales market, there's no problems.
Terrific. Thank you so much. A question, I've got 2 questions. If anyone's got questions now, do throw them in, because I don't want to sort of go through the questions without we're done and then more questions come through. So if you've got questions coming through, please keep popping them in. Questions come through from Chris to thank you for a great session today. Thank you, Chris. Thank you for joining us. Chris would like to know a little bit more about the depth of your management team, a little bit more about the team that's backing Otway Brewing Group.
Well, a lot of that will be sort of put out in the investment sort of programs to let you see who the people are. We've just been expanding that team recently. I've been heavily involved in looking after the hospitality sites, and I'm sort of stepping sideways from that and have just actually started a new general manager of hospitality, actually just arrived from overseas on last Friday. So we're expanding our team out there. So each of our venues has a well-experienced venue manager running them. We've now put in a new head of hospitality. We've got a new marketing person on board. We've had a social digital marketing person with our team for the last 5 or 6 years. There's a lot of stability in most of our team there. Our production team at Otway, most of the staff there have done 7 to 8 years, very experienced in what we're doing. So yeah, all that can be seen in a lot more detail in the investment offering of who those people are and what their experience is.
Awesome, thank you.
And again, we actually welcome potential investors to come and actually meet us and actually see the sites. So there's that opportunity. It's all of the infrastructure is essentially base infrastructure there, so people can actually visit where we are and what we do now.
How do you retain your good staff? There's lots of chat at the moment in the hospitality world about how hard it is to get good people in. A question's come through from Jess to ask about, staff programs and growing the team.
There's a whole range of things we do. I suppose the first thing we try and offer all of our staff career progression. So most of our production team have all been trained in-house, as an example. So we bring people in and we can move them into production and other jobs and so forth, which gives them a career progression. So a lot of our core staff have stayed with us for years because they've actually got a career path within the business, rather than just being just having a single job title. So it is challenging out there actually getting staff. We believe we're very competitive in remuneration and bonus structures and rewards and so forth, and that helps us generally recruit quite well. The problem is out there at the moment, the labour market is so tight. There's actually just possibly just not people there wanting to work in these industry sectors. So it's a challenge. Take our Pole Bay distillery site. Most of our staff have been with us since we opened that site. We've got an incredibly stable level of staff in there, but we actually just probably can't get enough staff. So we've got to open that site more, but we actually just need to physically get more staff. So it is a challenge out there. So we continue working on that and working through programs. And at the moment, we're moving into this summer probably with a lot of the local kids that come back to our regional areas from university. We're looking actually quite good for our sort of peak summer period at this point in time.
Yeah, terrific. I mean, lucky to be in a position where, I know there's probably many hospitality venues down each coast that are hoping for those staff to come back. So great to hear that you've got some really good, retention programs and plans in place, and that staff can have a really great career progression if that's what they choose. That's absolutely awesome. A great question has come through from Linda again. What if I decide to invest more after the offer? Will there be an opportunity to invest again in Otway Brewing Group?
Yeah, quite probably. Something we haven't actually fully discussed, but we'd always welcome that opportunity.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Everyone, this has been such a great session with some really, really great questions to ask Andrew and the team at Otway. I hope you found the session really great today. I popped some handy FAQs in the chat box down the bottom. If anyone has any questions about investing through crowdsourced funding or in the Otway Brewing Group as well. As I mentioned, the offer will be becoming available in I think about a week and a bit for the Otway Brewing Group. So keep an eye on your emails, and if you haven't yet expressed interest on their Birchal page, make sure you do that so you don't miss out on a thing for this upcoming opportunity. Andrew, thank you so much for joining me. I might pass it over to you to sign off, and we'll wrap up.
No, that's fantastic. Thanks everyone for joining today. And if there's any follow-up questions, we're welcome to have them emailed through, and happy to have a chat with anyone individually if they want about anything else that they want to take offline. Not a problem. We hope you join us on our journey. Thank you all today.
Thanks, Andrew, and thank you, everyone. Have a lovely weekend. Bye.